Helene jegado, born 1803 in Morbihan, France, died February 26, 1852 in Rennes, France. Cause of death, execution by guillotine. Criminal charges, three murders, three attempted unalivings, and 11 thefts. Criminal penalty, execution. Helene was born on a small farm in Morbihan near Laurent in France. She lost her mother at the age of 7 and was sent to work with two aunts who were servants at the rectory of Bory. After 17 years, she accompanied an aunt to the town of Seglingen. Seglin. She became a cook for the cure, where an incident arose where she was accused of adding hemp from his grain house to his soup. Her first suspected poisoning occurred in 1833 when she was employed by another priest, Fur France Dorge, in the nearby village of Gorin. In the 3 months between June 28th and October 3rd, 7 members of the household died suddenly, including the priest himself, his aged mother and father, and his own visiting sister, Anne Gigardo. Her apparent sorrow and pious behavior were so convincing that she was not suspected, coming shortly after the Cleora era of 1832. The deaths may have been attributed to natural causes. Gigardo returned to Buber to replace her sister, where substantially 3 people, including her aunt, unalived over the course of 3 months, all of whom she cared for at their bedside. She relocated to Lokim, where she boarded with a needleworker, Marie Jean Lebucher. Both Lebucher and her daughter unalived, and her son fell ill. It's possible that the son survived because he did not accept Helene's ministrations. Then, in the same town, the widow Laurie offered Helen a room. She died after eating a soup of her new boarder had prepared. In May 1835, Helene was hired by Madame Toussaint. 4 more deaths followed. By that point in time, she had already put 17 people in their graves. God. Later in 1835, Helene was employed as a servant in convent in Auray, but she rapidly dismissed after several incidents of vandalism and sacrilege. Helene worked as a cook in other households in Uray, in a Pontivy, Laurent, and Port Louis. Although she was employed only briefly in each one, often someone fell ill or died. Among her most infamous unalivings was that of a child, little Marie Bridger, who died at the Chateau de Soy in May 1841, 10 years and 1 month before her final arrest. Most victims died showing symptoms corresponding to arsenic poisoning, though she was never caught with arsenic in her possession. That's interesting. There is no record of any suspected deaths from late 1841 to 1849, although a number of her employers later reported thefts. She was apparently a kleptomaniac and was caught stealing several times. Her career took a new turn in 1849 when she moved to Rennes, the capital city of the region. Although there is not much information stating why she committed these crimes, it can generally be linked to a psychological issue. Psychopathological model explains that her offenses can be linked to her psychological problems. It is possible that these problems erupted at a young age after her mother died. It is not uncommon for a child to develop abandoned child syndrome due to the parents' passing. Helene once stated that unaliving people gave her a sense of power, which she enjoyed. This woman, she was sick. She is a psychopath, sick as hell. In 1850, Helene joined the household staff of Théophile Bidard, a law professor at the University of Reims. One of his servants, Rose Tisser, fell ill and died when Helen tended to her in 1851. One of the other maids, Roselle Zarrains, fell ill as well and died. Two doctors had tried to save Rosalind, and because the symptoms were similar to those of Rose, they convinced the relatives of permit an autopsy. Helen arose suspicion when she announced her innocence before she was even asked anything, and she was arrested July 1st, 1851. What the hell? Later, inquiries linked her to 23 suspected deaths by poisoning between 1833 and 1841, but none of these were thoroughly investigated since they were outside the 10-year limit for persecution and there was no scientific evidence. Local folklore has attributed to her many unexplained deaths, some which were almost certainly due to natural causes. The most reliable estimate is that she probably committed about 36 unalivings. Helene's trial began December 6, 1851, but due to French laws of permissible evidence and statute of limitation, she was accused of only 3 murders and 3 attempted unalivings and 11 thefts. At least one later case appears to have been dropped since it involved a child and police were reluctant to upset the parents by an exhumation. Helene's behavior in court was erratic, changing from humble mutterings to loud, boisterous shouting and occasional violent outbursts against her accusers. She constantly denied she even knew what arsenic was, despite evidence to the contrary. Doctors who had examined her victims had not usually noticed anything suspicious, but when the most recent victims were exhumed, they showed overwhelming evidence of arsenic and possible antimonium. A Malaguti, a chemist professor from the University of Reims, was called as an expert at the trial. The defense lawyer Magalori made a remarkable closing speech, arguing that she needed more time than most to repent and could not spare the death penalty since she was dying of cancer anyway. The case attracted little attention at the time, pushed off the front pages of the Cope in Paris. Wait, what does that have to do with this trial? Helene was sentenced to death by guillotine and executed in front of a large crowd of onlookers on the Camp de Mars in Reims on February 26, 1852. But what does the lady dying with cancer have to do with her trial?